A childhood story that changed my life forever. When I was 8, I met a man named Mr. Evans. He lived alone in a little wooden house at the end of our street. Most kids were scared of him. They called him the Quiet Shadow because he rarely spoke and always wore a long grey coat. But one rainy afternoon, when my kite flew into his garden, everything changed. I hesitated at the gate, nervous, but he opened the door and smiled. "Looking for this?" he asked, holding my soggy kite. I nodded silently. Instead of just handing it over, he invited me in. His house was filled with books, every wall lined with stories, poems, and dusty encyclopedias. I asked, "Have you read all of these?" He smiled again. More than once. From that day on, I visited Mr. Evans every Sunday. He would read to me, tell me stories of his travels, and teach me lessons I didn't learn in school: kindness, empathy, and the courage to be different. He once said, "You don't need to shout to make an impact. Quiet people can still change the world." That sentence still echoes in my soul. Years later, I learned he was a retired professor who had lost his family in an accident. Books became his way of surviving grief, and somehow I became part of his healing. Today, I'm a teacher, and every time I see a quiet child sitting in the back of the room, I think of Mr. Evans, and I listen. I didn't understand it back then, but Mr. Evans was planting seeds in my mind, seeds of thought, of self-worth, of compassion. He never told me what to do. He simply shared stories. And in those stories, I found pieces of myself. There was one rainy day. I was feeling down, like I didn't belong anywhere. He handed me an old book and said, "This book isn't just about characters, it's about you. Every story you read is a mirror. Don't be afraid to see yourself in it." I remember going home that day with the book tucked under my arm and a strange feeling in my chest, like I mattered, like someone truly saw me. And now, as an adult, every time life gets noisy, overwhelming and fast, I remember the silence of his little house, the sound of the rain on the window, and the steady voice that said, "You don't need to shout to make an impact." Thank you, Mr. Evans, for seeing me, for teaching me that even the quietest voices can leave the loudest echoes. Maybe you had a Mr. Evans in your life too, someone who didn't need to be loud to be heard, someone who showed you that love isn't always grand gestures, it's quiet presence. If you've ever felt invisible, or like your voice didn't matter, please remember, you don't have to be famous to be unforgettable. The smallest acts of kindness, the softest voices, the simplest stories can change someone's entire world. Just like Mr. Evans changed mine. Now I want to hear from you. Who was the person that changed your life forever? Drop their name in the comments. Share their story. Let's keep their memory alive, together. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because stories like this deserve to be heard, and maybe they'll change someone else's life too. Looking back, I realize it wasn't just the stories that changed me. It was the way Mr. Evans listened. You know, sometimes when I'd talk, he wouldn't interrupt. He'd just smile and nod, like every word I said mattered. And in a world where kids are often told to be quiet, that meant everything to me. He taught me that silence isn't empty, it's full of understanding. One day I asked him why he lived alone. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he showed me a photograph, faded and creased. A woman, smiling in the sunlight, holding the hand of a little boy. "That's my wife and our son," he whispered. That was the first and only time I saw tears in his eyes. He didn't need to explain more. I understood. In that moment, I realized something profound. People carry stories they never tell. The grocery store clerk, the neighbor you barely say hello to, the old man who walks alone every morning, they're all living novels. Mr. Evans gave me the greatest gift anyone could ever give a child. Not just knowledge, but awareness. The awareness that behind every quiet face is a world waiting to be discovered.